Our food is our way of life. It almost defines our people. You can't do any ceremony, any visit. You go see somebody, the first thing they do is bring out some smoked fish, and salmon spread, and you have a cup of tea or whatever. It's just ingrained in us. It's a little different than going to the store to share something. If you share something with you that you've harvested yourself, it has a value you can't measure.
For thousands of years, the culture and traditions of people living in southeast Alaska have revolved around the gathering of food from the land and the sea. There are beach greens and seaweeds along the shorelines, berries from early spring through late summer, deer in the forest, salmon in the streams and coastal waters, and crustaceans and deep-sea fish offshore. Most residents of the isolated communities in this part of the world hunt and fish for food, and some subsist almost entirely off the land. But given the isolation of our island communities and the abundance surrounding us, it's more logical to rely on a connection to the land and its resources, rather than on connections to faraway places and cities. This reliance on wild food sources is important to Alaska in general and Southeast in particular, and requires unique management of the resources that people harvest to feed themselves and their families.
I'm Greg Killinger. I'm the Fish, Watershed, and Soils Program Manager on the Tongass National Forest. It's the largest national forest in the United States, and it also produces roughly 70% of all the salmon produced on national forests in the U.S.
One of the subsistence management programs coordinated by the U.S. Forest Service is the Fisheries Resource Monitoring Program.
The program is the Fisheries Resource Monitoring Program. It's part of our bigger subsistence management program. We put together usually a 3 to 5 year project where we put a weir in or do in some form count fish, how many adult fish are coming back, try to find out how many fish are being caught in various different fisheries, and in the end have information that helps us determine if the stock is healthy, what kind of fishing pressure it can withstand, and how do we make it long-term.
These monitoring projects consist of weirs that allow biologists to count salmon as they migrate upstream to spawn.
My name is Terry Szyminski. I work for the U.S. Forest Service. I'm the Subsistence Program Leader for the Tongass National Forest. Our first projects in the Fisheries Resource Monitoring Program started in 2000. We've probably studied over 20 systems that really have not had in-depth escapement data gathered on.
In addition to counting salmon, weir workers collect age, sex, and length data, as well as information on the timing of spawning migration. Tony Christensen grew up in Heidelberg, a town of about 350 people on Prince of Wales Island in southeast Alaska.
Subsistence here in the community provides pretty much 80-90% of people's food, and also provides us with that cultural activity and spiritual connection to the land.
Are you gonna do this? Yeah! All right, on us to agree. 1, 2, 3.
There's a system established for this community to take care of itself. I like to say Heidelberg has its own social services. Nobody's homeless, nobody's hungry, and we take care of our own.
The town is 90% Alaska natives from the Haida tribe. The economy is based mostly on commercial and subsistence fishing and some timber harvest. Tony is the principal investigator on the FRMP project, which has monitored sockeye runs on Hedda Lake for 10 years.
We've the last 3 or 4 years not fished certain stocks because of the sensitivity. Trying to make sure we maintain escapement goals at the weir site to ensure long-term harvest of that resource at that site, and it's really been a boost to the whole community's take on how we view subsistence management. That money's provided local jobs for 5 to 6 people on an annual basis. It's provided us with training programs. It's increased our capacity to get into other fishery programs.
My name's Tars, and that's my nephew James. I have another nephew that works here, but he's out playing basketball. So being out here every day is really, it's been a blessing for me and my family. I get paid pretty well to be out here, but what I really get out of it is more than what you can pay me for.
Having local people do it, there's a trust issue there. You know, when your cousin and your brother and your uncle are the guys working on these projects and helping you, letting you know whether there are fish there or aren't fish there, there's trust in that.
This is the sockeye salmon.
Three, set.
John Littlefield grew up in Sitka, where he learned to hunt and fish from his father and uncle. There is a long tradition of harvesting food in his family, both for subsistence and cultural purposes. In his retirement, he runs a camp just north of Sitka, where kids can come to learn how to traditionally harvest and process subsistence food.
And this is how you can tell it's a subsistence caught fish. We have to take that dorsal fin off.
Rich and I have tried the best that we can to make sure our children understand the importance of subsistence. We come from both large families and understand that our grandparents craved these foods. They could have a cupboard full of food that they bought in the store, but nothing is soothing to their heart and their soul like the foods that they've known since they've grown.
My grandson, I was telling you about, he caught his first sockeye the other day, first one. He took that sockeye and he wanted to give it to his grandmother. And so I told him, that's great, that's what you should do with it. And so he gave that first fish to his grandmother. And we teach that all the time. That's respect for things. And we're all tied to food somehow. You can't live without taking some other creature's life. I mean, no one can. And out of that, we develop, our respect for those things that have given their life so we can subsist. All become part of our culture. We respect nature. We respect the trees, Asquani, the tree spirits. All of those things are tied into us. So the word subsistence itself is defined by the federal government. It's a long-term, customary, and traditional use. They have a whole paragraph that that defines it, but we were just trying to make a living. I guess that's and trying to feed our families.
Over the past 13 years, the Fisheries Resource Monitoring Program has gathered data on sockeye runs throughout Southeast. Since current funding is limited, the program targets runs that have high community use and lack key population data. Everyone who eats the food that grows natural and wild in Southeast knows that it's essential to our physical and cultural survival.
In the past, just in the last, to about 10 years ago, there was a lot of mistrust and management wasn't shared across the board with all user groups. So I think now there's a better opportunity for us because there seems to be better working environment, better atmosphere for collaboration and networking and solution finding.
Part of this program is working with tribes, small community entities to determine what their needs are and then cooperatively manage these salmon runs.
The bottom line is that for many Southeast Alaskans, subsistence is a necessary and important way of life. The Fisheries Resource Monitoring Program recognizes this and supports subsistence priority through ecological, economic, and social means.
Without the subsistence, we wouldn't be able to follow in the footsteps of our ancestors and conduct those activities and share who we are and our culture, because what we do is we share our resource, and that defines our generous nature and giving nature and what our culture is all about. So subsistence is probably the most important thing we have.
Having all the information ahead of time before you make a management decision is mandatory. So if they're going to make management decisions about fish, they have to have all that information. And deer, all of those things. They all have merit. I think that's money well spent. Because we don't want our fish, I don't want to say I ate the last sockeye.
I think what helps this and the tribe run together is the knowledge that you get and the mutual respect that's built for both sides. I know when I was younger and I was a commercial fisherman, we really didn't like scientists and we didn't like them telling us what to do, you know. But as you become better educated, you realize that everybody's working for the same thing. If a fisherman kills off the run, then, you know, nobody has anything.
You know, in the long term, we're going to see those benefits in the future, but if we don't have subsistence resource dollars, how are we going to see that result? It's going to be gone, you know, and we'll basically be out here doing all of this for nothing. I mean, we need a continued management program as much as the state and federal government needs that annual budget. People who are building the capacity and out here managing the resource and getting community buy-in need that to be a sustainable program so we can continue to feel like we're players in resource management.
Yan gay une. Yan ka.